Okay, we're now going to move on to working with blocks. Now, if you found the layout and the layout section a bit confusing, you may find this even trickier. This is quite a difficult bit to teach. What we're going to do is end up with 3 different types of table. Okay, we drew this green rectangle to represent a table, and we're going to create some of the blocks that will stay in the drawing, and we're going to export some of them to outside the drawing. And the reason for that is so that other people can use them. So if you were working in a team, you could create elements in your drawings that other people can use, and that's more productive. So let's go to model space for this. We don't need to see anything happening in paper space. And we'll zoom in on our drawing. Okay, if I click on these lines, you see they're individual lines. There's no unity there. They don't know what they are. They're just green lines. They don't know they make up a table. So what I'd like to do is turn these 4 lines into a block which unites them. We've drawn a rectangle, which is in effect a united shape, but a block can be far more complex, can have much more information in it than just one rectangle. But we're going to avoid doing much drawing here. I like to keep this simple. Now, blocks are extremely useful. There is actually some blocks in this drawing already. This door, when I click on it, it shows up as a united object. The double door, that's a block as well. There's a whole ribbon bar dedicated to working with blocks. We've got the insert ribbon. So let's click on that and just have a look and find out where these 2 items sit in the drawing just now. So if you go to insert, okay, drop the arrow down, you'll see that we have a DP door and an SP door. The funny named block here is actually the whole plan. I copy and pasted it from a different drawing. We can purge that away. Let's do that just now. Let's get rid of that one from our list. Okay, now it's not in this drawing as a united object. The plan is all split up into individual lines. So I now no longer need the block of the plan when it was all tied together. So I purge it away. So I drop the arrow down here, go to Drawing, Utilities, and Purge. Okay, it's saying there's quite a few things in here that could go. We've got some text styles that aren't used now, some multi-leader styles, some line types that aren't used, dimension styles, and blocks. So there's quite a bit of mess in here that could go. So let's say I want it to purge everything, purge all. I've got a tick in here as well that says purge nested items. So inside that block there might be some layers that will need to go as well. Purging all with that ticked as well will get rid of everything. So let's do it. Purge all. Purge all items. Zip. All gone. And close. Let's have a look at the insert command again. And the block's gone. The $A block is now no longer here. Okay, let's create our first table. Now this is drawn on layer furniture. Currently we're on layer titles. If I kept on layer titles, what would happen is that within the definition for this table there'd also be reference to layer titles, and that wouldn't make sense to anybody else who was using this in their drawings. The layer titles would appear, and this is how, you know, through nobody's real intention, we end up with spurious layers appearing in drawings. It's because they were embedded in blocks. So the best thing to do is either set a layer current that is used in the block, or use layer 0, because that's in every single AutoCAD drawing anyway. But we know it was created on layer furniture, so let's make fern the current layer. Okay, now we can create blocks that live only in this drawing, or we can create blocks that are going to exist outside this drawing. We use the command B for creating a block that's going to live in only this drawing. So B return. Okay, we get a fairly complicated looking dialog box comes up, and it's asking me first for a name for the block. So let's call it table. It's asking me to pick a control point for the block. Now with a table, we sometimes put them together in groups. It would be useful if this was a corner. So click on pick point and put your object snaps on so that you can pick the bottom left corner of the table. We then want to select the lines to make up that block. So select objects, get the 4 lines, and return. We can see here a little preview. That's what we want, a little rectangle. Okay, there's our old friend Iterative. Keep that switched off. If we don't, then our tables might not show up in different scales of viewport. Okay, allow exploding allows us to mess around with the blocks later if we wanted to. And if you limit it to only being scaled uniformly, then you couldn't have a table that was twice as wide as it is deep. Okay, don't worry that this shows a very strange coordinate. It doesn't matter. It's the position on the object that counts, and that's what you picked. Click OK. The block is generated. Now, one thing I didn't show you there was this bit in the middle, and we could have retained the objects as they were as separate lines if we were maybe making a variant. What we did was actually turn it into a block where it was sitting, or alternatively we could have deleted the ones that were there originally. Now, having it on delete is the one that's risky, because if you purged without having used the table, then you'll undo your work. You won't have the table to use again. So delete is the tricky one. Okay, so I've got the block there. Now when I click it, it's all one item. It's now a block. And if I hover over it, you see now that it says it's a block reference instead of saying it's a line. Okay, that's existing in just this drawing. Let's bring one in and show you that it is a block. So we go to Insert, Insert. You'll see it's now on the list. So as well as our doors, we've got a table. It's asking me where do I want to put it. Do I want to choose? Yes, so I put a tick in here. Do I want to change the scale? No, I don't. I'll keep the table the same size, so I'll avoid that tick just now. Do I want to rotate it? At this point, no, so I'll take the tick off that. Click OK. You see, we've got one of our tables stuck on the end of our cursor. Let's place it alongside. Okay, so both of these items are exactly the same. Right. Let's create a second table. Let's create one that's going to go outside the drawing. So we'll explode this one. Okay, so use the X command, so X return, pick on the table and return. Now I'm going to send this one out of the drawing, and this is going to become table 2. Okay, so we'll W block this instead. Instead of block, it's W block. So W and return. Okay, what we're best to do first is choose where it's going and what it's going to be called. Okay, so I don't want it to be called new block in this folder. That's a different project I was working on. I want to choose this 3-dot icon, which lets me browse anywhere on my machine. Okay, so the folder is on the desktop, AutoCAD course, and I'm going to give it a more sensible name, and I'm going to call it Table 1. Okay, now let me just check names here, make sure I'm doing this right, following my list of instructions. Yep, good to go. So Table 1, it's asking me, I could save it as an older type of AutoCAD drawing as I do this. This is sometimes quite useful, it makes them a bit more usable. Because there's nothing in there that's any any really of any complexity that would only work in 2013, then I could let it go as a 2010 drawing. So I'm going to save now. Okay, and then the other bits are pretty similar to what we've used already. We decide on a control point, so pick point. I'm going to use the bottom corner here. Then I select the objects and return, and I'll convert it to a block where it's sitting. So this will become table 1. Okay. So we have a table here and table 1 here. Didn't realize at the start I was going to end up with so many tables. So let's give this one a number. Let's rename the block. Okay, so you can use the rename command to rename and return. And table is going to become table 2. Click rename to and OK. Okay, table 1 exists only in this drawing, but table 2 exists in this drawing and outside in the folder. If I click on the course folder, you'll see it's here on its own. It's got its own drawing. Let's open table 2 and change it and bring it back in. Before I do though, let's copy this so it looks a bit more dramatic when it does arrive. So let's copy both tables at the same time. CP, return, pick both tables and return. Base point can be anywhere. Just move upwards and click twice to spread out a few tables. Okay, so these are all table 2s and these are table 1. We're going to open table 1, change it, and then bring it back into this drawing. And these will update to suit. Okay, so let's open now. Table 1, open. And instead of it having square corners, let's give it rounded corners. So we use the fillet command for that. So it's F, return. I want to set a radius. So it's R, return. And a radius, let's say 150 millimeters. Press return again, and now we reshape the corners. Press return and pick 2 more lines. Return, pick 2 lines. Return, pick 2 lines. Okay, so table 1 is now a different shape to table 2. Okay, let's save it and close just table 1. Now what we'll do is we'll bring in table 1 from outside the drawing. Previously we've been inserting from inside the drawing. So we go to insert and we browse to the outside. Look on the desktop, AutoCAD course, there's table 1 with its rounded corners. Click open. I'll control where it goes. I'm not too worried about these just now because I'm just wanting to show that it changes the ones that are here. When I click OK, we should get a warning. Okay, it's saying that table 1 is already a block in this drawing, and that bringing in a different table 1 is going to update the ones that are here. It's going to redefine them. But that's what I want. So I redefine the block. And you can see now that the table 1s have all changed to the design that's sitting outside the drawing. Okay, press escape. So let's create a third table, a table 3. Okay, and this one's going to have a slightly different shape. We don't have a table 2 outside the drawing, so let's send them out first. So we'll W block, so it's W return, and let's send out a block that's already made, which is table 2. So we change to a source object as a block, drop the list down, I'm going to send table 2 out. It remembers where the last one went to, so I don't need to change the location, and it already has its name because I chose it here. Everything else is grayed out because it's a block that's getting sent. Click OK. A little flash appeared here. Table 2 is now outside the drawing as well. Should be in the folder alongside table 1. Okay. Now let's create table 3. Let's mess around with the names in here again. Table 2's safe outside, so we could rename the table 2's here to table 3. So let's do that. Rename table 2, rename it to table 3. Rename 2. Okay. Everything's safe outside. This is just me changing names inside this drawing. Okay, let's do the same thing again. Let's send away a table 3. We'll redesign it and then bring it back in. So we W block, table 3. Everything else stays the same. Click OK. Let's open table 3. Now he's here, he's just out of view. So let's zoom extents. Here he is. And this is individual lines, as it should be. It's only when it's in use in the other drawings that it's a united object. So let's make this slightly different. Let's bring in the edges to make like a tartan pattern on the top. So O, return, short for offset. Let's come in by 75 millimeters. And we're bringing each side inwards each time. Let's bring them in again by 25 millimeters. So you return twice, change your offset distance to 25 and return, and bring the lines in again. Okay, so table 3, quite different now. We save it and close it. And then if we bring in table 3 from outside, the table 3s that are in here will change to suit. So insert, browse for table 3, click open. I only need to have the insertion point active, click OK. I get the warning again saying table 3 is a different one that's outside. Redefine block. And the tables change. Okay, so I've used a very simple shape there. Just press escape to stop. I've used a very simple shape, but you can see that it can get quite complicated and quite useful. Now, in a plan like this, it might be perhaps the lifts cars that are blocks. Okay, because they're both the same. They'd both be the same. There might be lifts here and lifts elsewhere in the building that are all the same. It might be the columns that you see. Might be this furniture. These could be blocks. This item here has probably got too many variations, too many variants to benefit from being a block. It would get too confusing. But something like the columns, which are all exactly the same, definitely would consider it. So let's just see it in action by redefining the doors. Now the door swing on these doors is shown as a solid yellow line. Now that's not very good graphically. This should really be a thin, represented by a thin line and maybe even a dashed line. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll bring in a block as it is. Now I think this drawing was drawn in Imperial originally. I'm not too sure. But what we'll do is we'll insert a door and then we'll break it up and reform it. So insert, drop the list down, pick D SP door for the single personnel door. And OK. Now you can see at the end of my cursor there's a door. So we don't enlarge the door. We've got to operate on it at its actual original size. So we zoom in. Just roll the mouse till you see the door a bit bigger. Okay, don't worry that you're working on something tiny here. Okay, just pick a base point and drop it in. Now when you intend to modify an existing block, it's very important that you use the same insertion point. Otherwise, all of the blocks would shift. If I use the wrong insertion point, then my doors might all move, and they would all move by the same amount, and it'd be a bit of a disaster. It's quite difficult to tidy that one up. So what I need to do is mark where the insertion point is at the moment. So I use a line. L, return, and my object snaps have insertion point active. So I'm looking for the insertion point, and there it is. Okay, and I'm just going to pull a line away from that, just so I know where that door is. Okay, now I can explode the door. So X, return. Pick anywhere on the door block and return. Now remember what I said about layers and which one should be current. Okay, I'm currently on the furniture layer. That's no use. I need to be on this doors layer or layer 0. So there's a doors layer here, doors L6. That's likely to be the one I need. Okay, then I'm going to pick on this line. I want to keep it on layer doors L6, but I want to change its properties. So I'm going to make the arc red. And I'm also going to change its line type at the same time. Okay, I'm going to use the hidden line type. It's just simple small dashes. Okay, press escape. Right, now we reform the block with the same name, and all the doors should update to look like this one. So it's not going outside the drawing, this is an operation inside this drawing. So it's B, return. We're going to choose the name, SP door, specify the base point, i.e. its control point, which is the end of this green line. Select the objects. We don't include the green line. Press return. Okay, that's what the new door is going to look like. When I click OK, I'll get a warning. It's saying the block's already here. Redefine it. Yes. Let's zoom out and see all those single doors should have the dashed red line on them. This is for the bin. The definition's done. Remember our line type scale. LTS, return, 35, return. That's better. I can see the dashes now. Let's do the same job on the double door, and things are going to look a bit tidier. So we insert, DP door. OK. It's stuck on the end of my cursor. That's fine. Zoom in till you can see it clearly, and select. We need to mark its insertion point. It's where it was stuck on our cursor, so it's going to be this bottom corner. So L, return. Insertion point is found. Drag away. Just leave a line, just so you remember where it is. Then you explode the block. So X, return. Click on the block and return. And it's these two arcs that we're going to change. Go back to the home ribbon. Change their color to red. Change their line type to hidden. Escape. Now we reblock it with the same name. So it's B, return. It's the DP door block that we're redefining. Repick the insertion point. It's going to be the end of that yellow line. Select the objects. Don't include the little marker line that we used. Return. The preview looks good. Click OK. We get the warning. Redefine the block. Yep. 14 doors will change. Zoom out. There's our double doors. Got the same looking graphic as the single doors. This was the one that was work in progress. He can go in the bin. So that was very, very quick to change all those doors. I didn't have to go looking for them. It's just changed them right the way through the plan. That would have been pretty laborious otherwise. Okay, so I hope you can see the benefit of using blocks. The insertion point really depends on the object. If it's a tree, its insertion point should be the center of the trunk. Okay, if it's a vehicle, it might be the center of the vehicle. If it's something like a piece of furniture like this, then we chose one in the bottom corner. You just got to be sensible and consistent and a bit careful, because blocks is a tricky area.